Ah. This is how it starts. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below, and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what the Horror Movie Syllabus is all about. But in short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that to explore. But that's not what we're doing today. Today we're doing our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series, where I take a recommendation from you guys and I watch a movie that I've never watched for the first time and give you guys my thoughts on it. Did I like it? Did I hate it? Is it syllabus-worthy? So this movie recommendation came from Reaper Girl. And this was a recommendation in the video comments for the Is It Syllabus-Worthy series when we talked about the movie Cut, which is one of the earlier ones that we did in the series, actually. And the movie itself didn't give me any clues to what this movie's about, to be honest with you, because the recommendation didn't seem tied to the movie, but rather just a recommendation for the sake of being a recommendation. Reaper Girl said that it's a particularly bloody movie, a gory movie. That was kind of all I had to go on. And hey, I'm down for that. That's my jam. So hey, let's check it out, right? So I purposely didn't do any research or anything like that ahead of time. Didn't even watch the trailer. Didn't do anything before watching the movie. But the one thing I had is the title, Eat. The movie Eat, it sounds kind of like cannibalism. So that's kind of where I was going with this. And that's kind of what I was expecting. Did I get what I expected? Yes and no. Yes and no. And I'm going to explain that in just a bit. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little review of the movie, tell you what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and then we will talk about whether or not I think it's worthy of being on the horror movie syllabus. So let's not wait around any longer. Let's get into that review right now. So as I mentioned, the movie that we're talking about today is Eat. Eat came out in 2014 and is indeed a cannibal movie, but not the way you're usually thinking of when you think of a cannibal movie. And it's definitely a low budget affair and is maybe a labor of love, maybe not. It's got a lot of things that are good and a lot of things that are not so good, but we're going to get into all that in just a minute. First, if you haven't seen it before, the movie follows an aspiring actress named Novella who is struggling to find work as an actor, and she is dealing with money issues, a lot of stressful situations going on, both in her personal life and in her professional life. And the stress is causing her to bite her fingernails. And at some point, she starts going a little bit too far and chewing those nails and starts to get a taste for human flesh, frankly, specifically her own human flesh. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it there so as not to spoil the movie for you. But the movie is a bit of a surprise because, like I said, it's a cannibal movie, but it's a self-cannibal movie. And I guess that's technically a little bit of a spoiler right there, but everything that I read after watching the movie identified it this way. This is not the first self-cannibal movie that is out there, and it's not the only one. There are others out there, so it's not the most original thing in the world, but it's not exactly a common story idea for cannibalism movies. So it felt pretty fresh in that sense. But in talking about the pros and cons of the movie and how I felt about it, I'm going to start with the bad first, which I don't usually do. I'm going to start with the things that were problematic for me. And the reason why is because those leapt out at me first in the movie and they got to be addressed. And really what we're talking about is subpar talent, both behind and in front of the camera. So let's just start off the bat. The acting in this movie is horrendous. It's terrible by pretty much every single person in the movie. Nobody's good in this movie. Nobody. However, the lead actor, her name's Maggie Maddock, and I don't know her from anything else. I looked her up. I did not recognize her from anything else. And she's not good in the movie. She's not good. But there's a charm about her. You like her anyways, despite the fact that she is a bad actress in real life, playing a bad actress on screen. And it's not good. But somehow you still are rooting for her. And so I'm going to credit the innate natural charm of Maggie Maddock on that really saves the movie. But we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Now, the thing about the bad actors is they're also working with awful dialogue. The guy who directed this movie, his name is Jimmy Weber. He is also the guy who wrote it, and so he wrote and directed this. And this is his only feature film. He has never made another feature film. He's mostly known for visual effects work, from what I could find on the internet, and that makes sense because we're going to get into it. But the visual effects is where the movie shines. The dialogue is not. The dialogue is really bad. It goes from trite to clunky to just downright like ridiculously not realistic. And it's funny to me because I kept asking myself, if a woman had wrote this, would the dialogue feel more real? Because most of the time it's women talking. The main characters are female, and their voices just don't feel realistic to me at all, ever. And I wondered if a woman was writing this dialogue, would it sound more realistic, more naturalistic? Would it be more authentic? Maybe, but I don't think it's the fact that Jimmy is not a woman that makes it for bad dialogue. I think it's just bad dialogue. It's just not particularly good. That said, the story's not bad at all. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too, that the story idea, the concept is pretty decent. I actually enjoyed that. The actual dialogue, not so much. And then his direction is also largely flat, limp, not terribly visually arresting, but every once in a while, he lucks into a scene where it looks really cool and looks really good. So every once in a while, there's a shot in there like, hey, that's pretty cool looking, but it's not often. So and look, they're working with a really low budget. It's very obvious. The sets look really cheap. There's hardly any extras when there's places that should be really crowded. It's clearly low budget, and that's the thing. Like, I don't want to harp on these things because I feel like it's somebody who wanted to make a really cool horror movie and did the best they could with the resources they had available to them. And I love a do it yourself. I love that kind of movie. I don't want to like criticize them for that, but it has to be mentioned because it hit me like a slap in the face early on in the movie. How low budget it was, how poor the acting was, how poor the dialogue was. It was all right there up front and center. And I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get into it because you had a cool concept, but a really shaky execution. I mean, I do really like the concept. I liked that I thought I was going to get a cannibal movie, and I got something a little bit different than that. I mean, the script needs work. It does. And, if I feel like they're trying to tease out some themes in the movie, and it's a little bit muddy, but they're there. Like, I did some research after the fact, and this movie is not super well known, but what I could find on it in terms of reviews, one of the reviews compared it a little bit to Starry Eyes or In My Skin, movies that are far better made. I'm just saying, but I see the comparisons, and I like those movies. So I see where they're going with this, and I think this is the right idea. To go and try to follow their footsteps and do like actually I'm not even sure if following footsteps. They might have come out before that, but I digress. To do the same kind of idea and explore this world of aspiring actors and kind of this, like the dog eat dog world of it, quite literally, is a great idea. What I wish they would have done is maybe dial up the camp aspect of this, especially because you had actors that weren't really going to give you seriously great performances. So if you played up the camp a little bit more, I think it would have worked better because this movie's at its best when it's being out and out ridiculous. The characters sometimes are acting serious and trying to give you serious dramatic moments, and it's falling flat because the dialogue's not particularly good and the actor's not very good. But when it gets silly, when they do like outlandish scenarios, when crazy stuff happens in this movie, it's a blast. And that's when the movie starts working for me. And it doesn't take that long to get there. The movie is actually fairly well paced. I'm gonna give it that. The direction may not be top notch, but it's not dragging too much. It's moving along at a good pace, and it gets to some good stuff pretty quick. And the good stuff is good. The silly scenarios are fun. Some of the bad dialogue works when the whole thing's feeling ridiculous. It really is painful when it's trying to be serious, but when it's trying to be caricature or campy, it really does work for me. And I just wish it was kind of consistently like that throughout the whole movie. And then when it dives into the actual gore, the actual cannibalism, the actual gore, it's a home run there. The visual effects background of Jimmy Weber is really essential to this movie because that's the best part. The movie's gore is, and this is something I think Reaper Girl said in her comment suggesting the movie, it's more blood than gore. But when you get the gore stuff, it's a little bit, but man, it goes a long way. It really is fun, and it's practical. It looks really gross, and it doesn't always look hyper realistic, but it definitely looks sick and it's fun. It's the fun kind of sick. It's a little stomach churning and kind of make you squeamish, but in a fun way, you know. And I'm down for gore. It's in terms of like something between, say, I don't know, like Cannibal Holocaust versus say Brain Dead. It's closer to Brain Dead in terms of tone. It's sillier and more over the top. And by the end of the movie, it's very over the top. And that's where this movie shines, is being over the top in the gore, in the silliness, in the ridiculous premise. It's all goofy stuff. It's just every now and then it tries to get a little bit more serious and it's not totally consistent and not totally clear with its themes. And that's a little bit of a disappointment. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, because of these drawbacks, the movie really threatened to lose me really quickly, but then it moved up to something cool. And it kept doing that. It kept me engaged. Maggie Maddock really kept me engaged. She's just charming. Like I said, not the best actress. I'm not trying to trash her because like she's not like it wasn't painful or anything like that. She's trying and it's not really hidden, but you still like her. And so you're with her for the ride, and then the cool gore effects come in, and that makes it for a fun ride. Again, I don't want to oversell the movie. It's a bad movie, okay? It's not a good movie, but it's a good time. I wasn't bored. I thought I was going to get bored in the first, 10 minutes or so, and then it picked up and I was good. Even though it was, like I said, not a great made movie, and sometimes I felt that it always went up to something zany or ridiculous or fun or gory or all of those to keep me engaged and bring me back in. So I had a really good time watching it. Does that mean it's good enough to make the syllabus? Let's find out. So, is it syllabus worthy? And as you could probably guess, no, it's definitely not. And it's because of the quality issues. The direction's not great, the acting's not great, the script is not great. So that's just not going to be enough to put it onto the syllabus unless it's so bad it's great, so bad it's good kind of movie, or some other noteworthy aspect of it. But that's where this also falls short. Is this movie doesn't really have a reputation. There's not even a Wikipedia entry for it. It's just really very much under the radar. It's got a little bit of love, and the people that have taken the time to review it seem to really like it. And I get that because, again, I had a good time with it. This sounds maybe more negative than I mean it to sound because I guess I had to admit it's a poorly made movie, but it's a fun movie. I had a good time with it. And if I, was going to tell you, should you see it or not? I'm gonna say, yeah, I think you should see it. Again, it's sick, it's gross, right? So if you can stomach that, see it. But it's a fun, gory ride. It's got a really likable lead. She's cute, she's charming, and you're rooting for her, and you're rooting for the movie. I mean, I am like, I do feel like the movie would be benefited from a remake with a somebody who had a little bit more experience directing, maybe a script polished, get a writer in there to kind of give it a little bit of oomph, and really kind of just play up the camp aspects of it. I think that would have been uh, that would be a really welcome way of approaching this movie because I think the idea is good, and I think the gore effects were great. I really enjoy them. Again, they're not always super realistic, but they're fun. And I think I like the concept. I like the concept of a kind of like a campier version of Starry Eyes. That's fun to me. I like that. Like, again, this movie is nowhere near as good as Starry Eyes. It's just not. But it's also not as serious as Starry Eyes. And a Starry Eyes that's a little bit more silly, played for laughs with some really fun gore. Yeah, like Starry Eyes will turn your stomach. This movie won't because you're having a good time. I mean, it might for some people, but it didn't for me. Where Starry Eyes made me uncomfortable. So I think it's a good analogy for Starry Eyes because it's a contrast, not a comparison. But I'd be down for a remake of this. I'm down for this. Like if somebody was saying, "Hey, let's watch something kind of silly and fun," I would throw this one on again. Assuming they could handle the gore because it is fun. It's not like I said. Bad stuff aside, negatives aside, I had a good time with this one. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad Reaper Girl that I'm glad that you recommended it. Thank you for that because it was not a waste of time at all. It was a fun time. I just wish that it was slightly better on a quality side because then I would probably have to think a lot harder about where I can find a spot for it on the syllabus. So it misses the mark. The quality's not there, but it's still definitely worth your time. So that's my thoughts on Eat. And now I'm going to give you my thoughts on a horror trivia pursuit card because it's that time of the video. And let's go with the I don't know, the killer subgenre, or killer categories, not subgenres on these cards. They're categories, but it's a killer category because I don't know, because it seems to work for Eat, I guess. There are people that die in it. Spoiler alert. Here's the question. In what film in the Step Up film series did Sharni Vinson, who plays protagonist Aaron in 2013's Your Next, star? Well, I know Sharni Vinson because I know her from Your Next, and that's pretty much all I know her from. I've never seen a Step Up movie in my entire life. Like, is that the one that Channing Tatum was in? Like, I don't even know. I know he was in Magic Mike, but I don't know if he was in those. I have no idea. And then there's the one that had Julia Stiles because I really like Julia Stiles, and I saw that one. But that's not Step Up. That's like Save the Last Dance or something like that. It's not a good movie, but I do like Julia Stiles. So I have no idea, but I do have a guess. Um, and they're just asking which film in the series, and so it's because I don't even know how many movies are in the series. Four? I have no idea. I really don't know anything but say like this is a movie. This is a question that I'm just going to wind up guessing on, but I have an educated guess. And I'm going to tell you that in a second, but I'm prattling on a little bit just in case you're trying to think about it too. But like, I don't know, like this is not a horror question, man. Like it's like talking about a horror actress, I guess, but they're talking about a non-horror series, and I mean, look, it's not like I only watch horror. You guys know this. You guys saw the comedy movie Syllabus, but uh, this is a gap in my film education. I have not seen the Step Up movies. I have zero intention of seeing the Step Up movies unless like The Rock starts being in them and they turn into like an action heist movie or something like that. Then I'll check them out. But until then, I'm probably not checking them out. But I am going to guess this. Okay, so if lock in your answer because I'm about to answer my answer, and my answer is because I know this title because I think the title is hilariously stupid, and it's the second movie, and it's called Step Up to the Streets, and I just think it's the dumbest title ever. It's worse than Break Into Electric Boogaloo. It's the stupidest title. So that's going to be my guess just because I know that title and I think it's funny. So that's my guess. So let's see if I guessed correctly. And the answer is Step Up 3D. Step Up 3D, which, like Jaws 3D, I guess. So I was wrong. It's not the right Step Up movie. And I proudly feel good about being wrong on the Step Up series. But if you are a fan of the Step Up series, defend it down in the comments below. Tell me why I should take the time to watch that movie. I'm probably still not going to do it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about it because if it's good, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, it's just not interesting to me. So let me know what you think of that. Let me know if you got the answer right. Let me know if you guessed Step Up to the Streets. Let me know if you've seen Step Up to the Streets. Just let me know, man. I just like hearing from you guys. Also, let me know if there's other movies that you can recommend because, like Reaper Girl, when she recommended it in the cut video, look, man, I wound up really enjoying Eat. I'm enjoying your guys' suggestions, your recommendations, so keep them coming. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. And until next week, when we do something different,